Hello and welcome to day 10 in our series of reflections drawn from looking at phrases found in the wisdom literature of the Old Testament. This also touches on the theme of wayfaring. Psalm 10, verse 1. Why, Lord, do you stand far off? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble? This verse from the Psalms explores with honesty the human experience of feeling abandoned by God. When we find ourselves facing tough times, we may feel as if God is not present with us. This psalmist questions why God seems distant, especially during his distress. Perhaps this also highlights a deep longing for God's presence and support. We live in a world where suffering plainly exists and pain is a reality. The suffering can, perhaps should, lead us to question our beliefs and the purposes of God. The honesty in this psalm encourages us to articulate our questions rather than shy away from them. We learn it is okay to speak to God in this way. So may you also find yourself at liberty to approach God with reverence, but also real questions when he seems apparently absent. As a somewhat spiritual guy, the realities of war sometimes require wrestling with daunting and difficult questions. Difficult questions about war, difficult questions about God, difficult questions about suffering and evil. One famously difficult question relates to what is known as a theodicy. A theodicy seeks answers to the question of why God permits evil and suffering at the level we sometimes see it. At present, I have no answer to that, but I do not think that we should be afraid to ask the question. I do not think we should be afraid to ask other difficult questions. I am not an advocate for ignoring them. If we want to know the answers, we have to ask the questions.
My dad went to war. Well, I say went to war. He worked on a ship in the catering corps, didn't actually see any action at all. He got turned back to England before they touched shore. Still they gave him a medal, I don't know what for. Still they gave him a medal, I don't know what for. I just battle with questions, I'm sometimes unsure. Is this overseas meddling, settling scores? Is there justification? Is this a just cause? Are we toppling dictators or tapping resource? Could this battleship, battle-bound, alter its course? A big ship to turn around, is it not worth the force? Questions worth contemplating, surely some pause for thought. Not convinced in all cases a just cause is for. Not convinced it's always seen as the last resort. History repeats what it says, I'm not sure we get taught. history repeats what it says, I'm not sure we get taught. My dad went to war, and my granddad before. My great uncle nosedived in a plane into water, like so many young lives whose young lives were cut shorter, sent out in a drive like a lamb to the slaughter. One more widowed wife and a fatherless daughter. If questions don't thrive, well by God they ought to. God's a question besides, but some have the thought, does he like certain sides? Are there wars he'd support? If he's watching, does he watch like we watch the sport? If he's watching, does he watch like we watch the sport? And does he steer this ship because man's overboard? Has he left us to drift? Has he severed the cord? Does he see the cliffs that we're headed towards? Is he there in our midst when our pleas seem ignored? Is he there in our midst when our pleas seem ignored? My dad went to war, saw no shock and awe. For him more of a holiday than it was a tour. My son's now 19 and some questions are formed. For I have these fine dreams, but he won't be conformed. He'll soon launch out to sea, he'll face his own storms. So how would I feel if my son went to war? Pride he was keeping our country secure. Rage in a game he'd become just a pawn. Pain and grief at his loss for what might have been mourn. Lay a wreath at a cross, say a prayer for the fallen. Is that what one does when your whole world is torn? Did God feel it too when he lost his firstborn? Questions they'll ask again, they've asked them before. They were asking them back when my dad went to war. Questions they'll ask again, they've asked them before. They were asking them back when my dad went to war. Questions they'll ask again, they've asked them before. They were asking them back when my dad went to war. Questions they'll ask again.